This is the newest 501st Battle Pack, and today marks my highly anticipated Round 4 entry for the 501st Alternate Build competition. And for those of you that aren't aware, this is a competition between me and a few other builders in the community, where we all compete against each other to see who can make the best alternate build out of the newest 501st Battle Pack. We have 4 rounds with an increasing number of battle packs used every round, and today we're on round 4, so we'll be using 4 sets. But before we dive into round 4, I just want to give a quick thank you to all you guys, because you all managed to get the ATL-CT into first place in round 3. I can't thank you guys enough for that. I was especially nervous going into round 3 because I had no plans going into it, but I ended up with a pretty good product, and it means a lot to me that you all seem to enjoy it. But enough about this old build. Today we're on round 4, and the prompt for round 4 was a dropship. We had to use 4 sets to make the best dropship that we could. And just like the previous 2 rounds, I was incredibly nervous going in because I had no plans prior to building. I of course had ideas, but I really had no concrete plans as to how these pieces were going to connect to make what I wanted. The only real concrete idea I had was to recreate the iconic 2008 Imperial Dropship set. That set and the 20th Anniversary Edition remake are both really iconic, and a lot of Star Wars fans really love it. And as a dropship, I think it functions perfectly. So I decided that we're going to take inspiration from that dropship and see how we can incorporate it into a new exciting alternate build. But enough talking about it. Once I got to building, I went through a little bit of trial and error, but I finally landed on a final product that I think you guys are going to like. So today, I'm very happy to present to you guys the Republic Heavy Attack Dropship, or the R.H.A.D. The R.H.A.D, or as the clones call it, the R.A.D, has 8 separate weapons and can hold 12 troopers and rapidly deploy them into combat. We'll dive into the lore behind the R.A.D a little bit later, but for now, let's take a look at the ship part of this dropship. So starting at the front of the dropship, we of course have the cockpit, and on the outside of the cockpit, we have 3 of the 8 weapons that this dropship has. We've got a chin-mounted laser cannon with some rapid-fire light blaster cannons on either side, and then just in between them, we have these small binoculars. And you might think that these are some more weapons, but on my model, these are actually just some lights. Now when you build this, you can totally make those into blasters, but on my model, those are just lights so the dropship can light up the LZ before it drops in its troops. Around the lights and the front cannon, we just have some tiles and some smooth pieces to make up some armor plating with a bit of grill detail in the middle. And then on either side, we have these little clipped bits that hold on to the rapid fire light cannons on either side. And I decided to use those little tooth or claw pieces to cover up that connection. And then just behind those cannons on either side, we have these armor flaps just to armor up the cockpit, and then it kind of makes some sort of window right here. And then on the front side, to continue the windscreen, so to speak, we have these 2 supports on either side, and this kind of makes it look like there's glass in between, and then there's glass in these windows here. But on the supports for the cockpit windscreen, I tried to smooth that out as best as I could using a variety of slope and angled pieces with a little bit of dark red Republic red mixed in there. But before we move on to the top of the ship, let's go ahead and fold down these front supports and we can take a look at what I did inside the cockpit. So with the front supports folded down, we can get a much better look at the inside of the cockpit. And right now I just have my specialist piloting the dropship, but if we get him out of there, we can take a better look inside. And inside the cockpit, there's not really much going on. Unfortunately, the 501st Battle Pack doesn't come with a control panel of any kind. But despite that, I decided to use those small bar pieces as some sort of joystick, so it actually looks like your pilot is controlling the ship. With our pilot back inside ready to fly this dropship, we can move behind him and take a look at these forks that carry the troop carrier. And these are the forks for the troop carrier. It carries it. Above that, we have some weapon storage for our troopers once the carrier is slotted inside. And besides that, there's not really much going on back here. I wasn't being sarcastic or anything. These are really just the forks that carry the troop carrier. They're of course entirely smooth, so no studs connect, so we can slide right out when you're ready to deploy them. And then on the bottom side here, we don't really have much going on. We have some Republic insignias on either side using those backpack pieces, and then a little bit of detail in here with these cylinders on either side. But now that we're done back here, we can follow these hinge supports going up, and we can move on to the top of the ship with these 2 massive engine units. This top section of the ship houses the remaining 5 of the 8 weapons that this dropship has. Each engine alone houses a double barrel heavy blaster cannon with a missile launcher just right on top, and then it's protected with plenty of slope and plate armor on either side to ensure that they don't go down in combat. And I'm sure it's obvious from appearances, but the flickfire missiles do work properly. Moving beyond the weapons though, we get to the rear side of the engines, and here I used a piece that I haven't used a single time in this entire competition. This 2x2 rounded clear cylinder. It's a pretty cool piece, but I just haven't found a use for it in any of my builds because it's clear. But I was in need of something cylindrical that could help build up the rear end of the engines and make up the exhaust, and these were there, so I decided to finally use them. And despite them being clear, they work pretty well and they help establish the shape of the engines that I wanted. Mixed in between them though, I decided to use those Technic gear pieces as a little bit of added detail with all those notches built into them. But now we can finally move in between both engine units and check out the main body of the ship up top here. But up top here, I tried to armor it up as much as I could, using as many smooth and tile pieces as possible, with only a little bit of greebling peeking through. With that bar piece up front and then those grill pieces on either side, I really wanted this top portion to be heavily armored, considering this part of the ship is going to house so many of the internals. Following these angled plates, we can head towards the rear of the ship, and we move on to the final weapon that this ship has. On the back side, in case this dropship is being chased, we have this tail cannon to cover the rear of the ship in combat. And then just above it on either side, we have some more greebling using those bars and Technic pieces. And with that little bit on the tail cannon, that pretty much covers the entire ship portion of this dropship. So despite this ship being controlled by a single pilot and being relatively lightly armored, it's got 8 separate weapons all over it, and that's not even mentioning the 11 troopers that it can deploy. Which, speaking of, let's check out this small troop carrier that houses those remaining 11 troopers. So as I said, this small platform houses 11 troopers, and you might notice every single one of them, including the ones on the inside, have their weapons, and 7 of them are wearing backpacks. I tried to include as much of their equipment as possible, and I'm really happy every single one has their weapons, including the officers on the inside. They're still dual wielding their small light blasters. Right now I've got this troop carrier outfitted with 8 heavy troopers, 2 officers in the middle, and then 1 specialist on the end here. But I'm going to go ahead and peel off all these troopers and we can get a better look at the platform itself. Jesus, my desk looks like a war zone now. Here's the troop carrier platform by itself. There's not really much going on here. It's obviously opened by design to hold as many troopers as possible. On both sides of the troop carrier, I have these small little legs to help give the carrier a wider base when it's landing so it won't tip over. And then a little bit of extra rear support with this brick and these clip pieces and those small tooth pieces down there. On the underside, you can see that this main 2x4 brick in here holds pretty much this entire platform together. Now it can of course exist without that entire assembly, but now it's only held on by those tiles and then it can pretty much snap. But other than that, that pretty much covers the entire landing platform. It holds 11 troopers as said. If you guys mess with the design, you might be able to hold more or less, but 11 was the maximum that I came up with. Now that I have all 11 troopers back on the troop carrier, we can go ahead and bring in the R.A.D and we can load it up and then we can finally see it in action. Loading in the troop carrier is pretty simple. These 2x4 bricks on the bottom of the troop carrier slide just in between the forks on the R.A.D. And despite the hanging weapon storage and all 11 troopers with all their equipment stashed in here, it's still not going to get in the way and nothing's going to fall off. The best way I find to do it is to grab the R.A.D by the engines. That way the bottom half kind of sags down, and then you just toy with it a little bit to slide it in, and then you slide your troopers all the way to the front and you're ready to go. And I don't know if anybody's going to believe me, but that was actually the first time I did that. I didn't have to do numerous takes. It's actually not that difficult. But for full transparency, because I did just point out that that was the first time, sometimes you will have a little difficulty. Okay, I just did it again. I'm sorry guys, an unknown feature. It actually appears to be impossible to fail at sliding in the troop carrier. You seem to get it every single time, no problem. Obviously I'm kidding, I've had quite a bit of practice, but it is pretty easy. Just slide that 2x4 brick right in between these forks and then you're good to go. There we go, that's the difficulty I was looking for. Jesus. And now that we have this entire dropship loaded up and it's ready to go, let's see it in action. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this build. I'm super excited to see your thoughts on this little dropship and everybody's entries, and I'm super excited to see how it all ends. As always, I do have PDF building instructions for this alternate build available on my Patreon right now, with a video version coming in a little under 2 weeks. And now you can combine the R.A.D with the IES speeder and the ATL-CT, and you have a formidable little 501st army to go on and take the droids. I'll of course have my fellow competitors' alternate builds linked in the description down below as they become available. And then as well, be on the lookout because Brickular Bricks is going to post his summary video for round 4 over on his channel. And then on his community tab, we'll publish a poll where you can vote on your favorite round 4 entry. This has been a super fun little competition, and I want to make one more video at the end encompassing my side and all my entries of the competition. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and this alternate build. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and if you have any ideas for any future alternate builds or mods you'd like me to do, especially with the new LEGO Star Wars sets coming out, let me know down below. And if you want to build your very own R.H.A.D, you can head on over to my Patreon page right now. Other than that, I'll see you guys next time. Peace, fellas. Oh, I also built this little wall out of some leftover pieces. It's got some Republic insignias and a cannon on it. It's pretty cool. They're all gone. They're out of here. Anyways, peace, fellas.